ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has been found guilty of 34 counts of blah, 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 blah. Don, you also have to help us here because I'm having a serious problem. I was on Dr. Wilmer Leon's show the other day, and we were talking mostly about the Libertarian National Convention, but then we got to the point where we're talking about Rafah. And a lot of people see what's going on in Rafah, and that's the same thing that's been going on since October 7th, this brutal, massive attack by the IDF in the state of Israel, the pro-Zionist state. But I'm no longer surprised at all. And I don't even... It's like, when you think that if you were going to be reporting the news, it'd be something that, the people don't know about, something unexpected, whatnot, but it's always the same thing with the Western government and the state of Israel. They don't care. They're bombing the craziness. It's just disgusting and sick. So, I mean, I don't even know how to report on this stuff anymore. But Donald Trump, 34 counts, he's found guilty. Oh, my God, like we didn't see this coming. Like the majority of people in the United States did not see this or view this circus and know that this was going to be a political attack against him. Can you break it down for us what this actually means, the 34 charges? Will he go to jail? Will he still be running for president? There are people out there, Republicans, who really don't pay attention to what's going on, saying Trump can't run for president right now. And they've thought for quite some time that Trump can't run for president. Give us your insight to what this means and what's going to happen next. And answer the big question. Is he going to jail, and can he still run for president? Go ahead, Don.
All right. So
get him big. Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin.
I know, right?
This is one of several cases with felony charges that total 90-something. I lost count. And this case was about allegedly falsifying business records. It's under New York state law. The fact pattern, the allegation was that through various agents, bagmen, as the newspapers refer to people like that, Trump paid off Stormy Daniels in order to keep her sordid tale, her claims that they did something or other under the sheets, out of the campaign so that it wouldn't damage his run for president in 2016. Obviously, that money was well spent.
Yeah. He might not be a criminal, but he sure is stupid.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, that's the first allegation. The underlying allegation is that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so the real claim was that consequently, by masking this payment to basically take care of a campaign expense, he was violating the federal campaign laws, its disclosure laws, and that he should be prosecuted for that. Well, the federal people, the prosecutors responsible for that, said, well, first of all, the statutes run on that. Secondly, this isn't really a violation that we could prove. This would be a loser of a case. We would decline to prosecute. And so the state then decides that, well, even if the actual crime that he supposedly committed wasn't being concealed, the records don't reflect that he was trying to commit the crime, and therefore they're false. And therefore we're going to charge him with that. And since there are 34 individual acts or documents involved in the performance of this thing, in other words, a memo from him to his lawyer, a check somebody wrote, an agreement somebody signed, etc., and that they total 34, each one is going to be a felony indictment. It's not just unusual. It's the kind of thing that even Son of Sam, they would have dropped a couple of the felony murder cases, A, for overkill, and B, well, this one's kind of weak. We only found the head. So instead, they prosecuted them, and of course, they did it in New York, which is, very strong, one of the strongest blue preserves in the country. And it was done with tremendous publicity, with a barrage of media that showed every sordid, piece of information that was laid out in court, 5 by 5 in the media, and he had a gag order. And they decided suddenly on a Thursday, just before 5 o'clock, to announce that the jury's back in, and at like 5 after 5, they announced 30. Well, they haven't read the verdict back yet, but we understand it's all 34 convictions. So people that don't know about media, if you want to sort of minimize the impact of a really bad story, you release it after 5 on Friday so that it kind of dissipates over the weekend. If you want the whole world to see everything, including its underwear, you release it on Thursday. So Friday, that's what they're talking about, and that's what everybody takes home for the weekend. And that's what, coincidentally, after this trial that's going on since last April or whatever, when the indictment was first released, at 5 o'clock today, the jury's verdict was released to the media. And 34, not 33 or 27 felonies, that's not enough. Has to be absolutely presented as absolutely certain that this guy is a criminal through and through. So the reaction here in New York, I picked this up. I was in the car coming back from the gym with Margot, and we had to stop at the house to pick up Sam and go down the river, the dog, to go down to the river. And I hear, as we're leaving the gym, that the jury is in, and that they're going to go retire to the chambers, and they have a multi-page, 20-page document that they have to fill out or whatever. They could take half an hour. And then I'm listening to 1010 Wins in New York. It's a news channel on the radio. Back and forth that the judge is talking to the jury and at this and that. Anyway, at 5 of 5, we hear that we might hear any minute what's happening. They go to like 98 commercials and suck the money out of it, and then come back and say, well, we've just heard from authoritative source that he's been convicted on at least 2 of the charges. No, that's 3. No, it's all 34 charges. That's how they presented it. And so I go from there, after I got some detail there, and I went to NPR for chuckles. And then I went to WBAI, which is a Pacifica station.
Hey, we're on WBAI. Did you hear us?
Yeah, I was morning news director there. I know that place. And they've got some guys on in the afternoon. Let's say that the politics of WBAI, at least on the air, are more intensively Democratic Party politics than I've ever heard at that station. And I've been listening since I was 16 years old.
At WBAI?
Yeah. They have...
Not LOL, baby.
Yeah,
not LOL.
Yeah, I know. But the bulk of the coverage and where it counts, the news.
I know.
And so these guys took over this program, City Watch, that was my friend Bill DeFazio was the host of for many years. Bill DeFazio was, he's a communist labor organizer, radical professor, and I don't know what these guys are, but not that. Talking about basically how good this is. Trump is no good, and this, is redemption for that. They don't go to the facts of the case or any of the things that is it a concern to you that weaponizing the justice system against political candidates in this manner and this blatantly, where that goes next? I mean, this makes Weimar look legit, and none of that discussion. They were gloating over it and affirmatively stating that, with now that we've got this, we have to get the third party candidates out of the way, and then we can be assured that Biden is going to win. This is the left part of the political spectrum on the air in New York. And so what was achieved today was a broad volley, public relations volley, in favor of the Biden campaign, featuring state prosecutors in New York, and the federal and the New York judiciary, the press, of course, which has been on board with this forever. And we're going to see how deeply involved the feds are in this particular case. We know that there's federal prosecutions also against Trump that are of equal value in terms of actual criminal activity and such. We're going to see how it all shapes up. You have to get this case out of the state court system and into the federal court system if Trump is going to have any luck at all, because the New York state court system, I mean, look, all of the courts in this country are highly politicized. The method of becoming a judge in New York that starts at the county, municipal or county court level, and that requires, factually, the Democratic chair of that county and the Republican chair of that county putting you on the ballot. And if there's if there's consensus between them that you're the person to be the next judge in county court or state Supreme Court, then that's how that goes. Our judiciary has you have county court, you have the state Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court districts are the trial court level, not the penultimate courts, despite the name in our court system, and the judicial districts take up like 3, 4, 5 counties, depending on how big the populations are. After the Supreme Court trial, which is what this was, you file your appeal to the appellate division. His trial was in Manhattan. That would be the first department of the state appellate division. And these are the creme de la creme of political appointees. You are a very good boy and do what you're told, or good girl, then you will end up being elected as the only one on the ballot judicial candidate for state Supreme Court. And if you're a very good boy while you're a judge, you get appointed to the appellate division. And if you're a really, really, really good boy or girl, you get appointed to the Court of Appeals. That's the top court in our state.
Yeah. It's all political. It's entirely
all
political.
And it's not even party politics. This is bipartisan politics. This is the real power.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's got to go through that or find some way to go federal with this right away. Now, I'm assuming if he tries to go, I don't know the procedure for doing that enough to know if he can do that anywhere. In other words, I don't know if he can go venue shopping for that. If he can go to a place where he might have a more favorable judge, a Republican judge or a neutral judge, and say to federal judge and say, please, I want to move this whole case to you and let's, appeal it here and, vet everything and blah, blah, blah. He may be forced to do that in the Southern District of New York, which is where this whole thing is taking place. That's the federal district, Southern District of New York. That's also very heavily Democratic. That's Chuck Schumer's federal district, basically.
Yeah.
So
with all that being said,
yeah,
please continue. Yeah, and I just
So, that again, these 34 charges that they constitute one case out of multiple cases that aggregate 90-something charges in several. I know he's in a court in D.C. in a federal court, and he's in a court in Florida. The Florida one, I believe, is
what were the main charges in this case, Don? This was like the
okay.
Is this the hush money? This is also the classified documents.
Yeah, no, this is the so-called
falsifying documents. Falsifying. I get them confused. Right. It's such a clown show. Please.
So here's what it is.
Yeah.
So supposedly he pays off Stormy Daniels to keep her mouth shut until after the election about them having sex or sleeping with a goat or whatever the hell they supposedly did. And in order to keep his hands clean, supposedly he instructs Michael Cohen or Bozo the Clown or whatever,
Yeah.
Be redundant. To pay the money to her, take back a lot, 2 million soda bottles, so nobody can trace in, and give her, a lot of nickels, whatever that was supposed to be. And apparently there's maybe an email from him saying, "Psst, the soda bottles are all cashed in," or whatever, and maybe a letter to somebody else, a document, all these things between the conversations, the checks that were written, the agreement that was drafted, the keep your mouth shut agreement, the soda bottles, the whatever else there was, constituted 34 individual acts that this prosecutor decided to make each one of a felony. So this one crime that was committed, concealing the nature of this transaction with her as hush money, is turned into 34 felonies. This is what they do.
There's no falsifying documents, business documents in this one?
These are the falsifying documents. I hope.
I thought this was the one when he overestimated the value of his property.
This is not that. This is not that at all.
Yeah. See, that's why
these documents that were supposedly falsified were documents that had something to do with this particular, arrangement with Stormy Daniels or whomever. And
understand.
And because they were not done in a way that could be easily analyzed as, oh, he made a hush money payment, that instead that was a falsification. A concealment is a falsification. And so 34 times, these individual acts, one way or another, they became individual felony charges.
One for every stroke for Donald Trump. It took him 34 pumps.
A check that says, instead of saying hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, says, expense number 6, or reimbursement to whatever. That is.
You're saying it's an FCC violation, right?
Say it again.
FEC. I'm sorry. Which one is it?
No, it's not. See, there's all right.
It's not a Federal Elections Commission's violation.
This is the fundamental part here. If he made this payment to Stormy Daniels, and if he did it in order to keep this out of the election, then that money was an expense to the campaign properly and should have been disclosed. That's the federal election, FEC violation that this was predicated upon. However, the Fed said, no, there's no crime there, and plus the statute ran. So consequently, he has not been prosecuted for that. These things are alleged to have been done in order to avoid having to do that federal disclosure. But as it turns out, he's not being prosecuted for the federal disclosure. And so they're prosecuting him in the state because they can reach him in the state for these other things that are collaterally related. It's ridiculous.
Okay, let me ask some questions real quick. The sentence is supposed to be on July 11th, right? Is that when they're supposed to do the sentencing? Or
I'm sorry. I know. I forget that I'm in this stupid program this way now.
All right, stop touching buttons.
I'm not touching it. I just would like to put myself under my camera so I can look at the camera and see where I'm framed.
You got to move the whole page then.
Never mind. Don't worry about it.
No, it's very easy. You just.
I don't know how to move the whole thing.
July 11th sentencing. Yeah. Is that when the sentence is supposed to be taking place? July 11th.
Yeah, and that's like a day or 2 or 3 before the Republican convention.
Wow.
And look, I assume by today or tomorrow they'll file and serve a notice of appeal on. They file it with the First Department. They'll serve it on the DA and whoever the hell else was involved. There'll be a stay for 30 days. I think that's true in criminal cases also. That's true in civil cases. Is it 30 days or 6 months? I forget. Yeah. Anyway, and I guess it's 30 days. And then there'll be motions made before the First Department. I don't know how quickly they'll respond. They don't have to make a decision. And also, I'm hearing. I haven't done any research myself yet. I'm hearing the talking heads, who are 50-50 usually in whether they're right or wrong, say that the judge could elect to throw him in jail, even if he appeals. So
He could do that, right? Okay. So
I don't know. I don't know that that's true. That's
all
what
right.
that's what some of them are saying.
Here's more questions. Ready?
Yeah.
And Matt, feel free if you got any questions to jump in because my question was this sentence on July 11th, the appeal, how that's going to take place. What does it mean? Where do we go from here with the weaponizing of the State Department? I mean, you made the statement. That's why I'm asking the question. It's not a loaded question. It's just a hard question because I'm saying to myself, if they really throw him in jail, there'll be riots in the streets. Will there not? I mean, where do we go from here?
Well, first of all, it's not just the State Department. That's what's frightening about this. This is a New York State court. And so not only do they have the State Department, and not only do they have the media, and not only do they have, like the intel agencies, they also have the state court systems. Now, not just New York. You go back to the litigation that took place after the election in 2020. There were 6 swing states, I think, that they litigated. And there were very substantial, very substantive issues to litigate in that. Let's start with Pennsylvania, where in 2019, before COVID, the Democrats in the state legislature I forget who the governor was, but the Democrats tried to pass legislation in the state legislature to expand, access to absentee balloting. In other words, to do what ended up being done, to allow just about anybody to get a ballot, to set up this regime with the boxes all over the place and all of that. And it was voted down in the legislature by the Republicans, who had a majority, who said that if we do this, we're going to, expose the system to massive amounts, possible fraud, because it's just true. You don't have a chain of custody over the ballots. And so it was voted down. Under the U.S. Constitution, the presidential election is to be conducted according to the laws that are, issued by the legislatures of the states.
Yep.
The state legislature should have been dispositive. What happened was the governor, it was a Democratic governor, did an executive order.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Attorney General did an interpretive ruling of the existing law, and the Commissioner of Elections issued rules, all of which ended up authorizing what ended up happening, which was like, I don't know, a million, some ridiculous number.
Technically against the law, according to the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, and so what happens? And so Trump's people file in the court. They brought several actions. One action is dismissed by this is a state court, okay? Pennsylvania State Court. One action is dismissed because they didn't name the right parties. Another one, you filed too soon. And another one had some other, jurisdictional threshold question. Finally, the question got before the court. And the court said, because what had happened, the fact was, when the polls closed and they counted the votes, Trump won Pennsylvania. And then a massive amount of paper ballots from this new process appeared.
Yeah.
And they were counted and they swung the election. So the court said, it is our feeling that it is not the role of the judiciary to change the outcome of an election. And so they declined to hear the case.
Yeah.
Similar judicial action was taken in the other swing states as well. In other words,
something real quick. Yes, but to the Democrats' credit or the establishment's credit for allowing it to happen on the Republican side, at least in like places like Arizona and Nevada, they made those temporary laws permanent, because after they fixed the election, got in the seats, then they put those laws into play. I mean, this is the stuff that happens when you have a judicial system like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it snowballs. Continue, please.
So what I'm saying is that, now what we're seeing is that that's visible is the interested activity of the judicial system for one political party over the other, or really for the establishment political candidate against the insurgent. That's how they see it. That's not necessarily how I see it, but that's how they see it. You got to understand, okay, so that means that there are also districts, I don't know which ones where, but you can bet there are maybe as many state districts and even federal districts, because a lot of federal judges out there were appointed by George Bush 1 and 2, and maybe some even by Ronald Reagan, that there are some who are as biased against Democrats as these are against Trump and or Republicans. The thing to note is that they were all put in place by one mechanism or another on behalf of the same group of people. And when we go before them, they have a consensus on who is us and who is them. And them is the us, and we're them in their eyes. So this is not our court system, no matter what they're doing to each other. We got to keep that in mind, too.
So the answer to my question is, where do we go from here? It's pretty much, we're screwed. Like, we are completely controlled. We don't have a system that's fair and balanced where we, the people, can get justice. We'll never get justice. It's a controlled system. Mr. Weinglass, you've been sitting in the bleachers over there listening. I hope you're enjoying this education, because that was, it just made, I answered my own question when I realized that, when it comes to elections, Nevada and Arizona made those temporary laws a real thing, because it was the first crime they committed, which allowed them to commit the second crime. And that's what's going on over here. Go ahead, buddy.
Setting a new precedent there for sure. I would say, today seems like, and I'm just trying to put it all together. This is all just happening now. This is all fresh. And I'm looking at this and thinking, in another dimension, today could be a day we would be celebrating, because today would be a day that the curtain was pulled back completely. That's what it looks like to me. We should have an opportunity right now to see 34 counts sticking. I think that this would be a moment where, if all the education we do on our shows, all the conversations we have with each other and people that listen and engage, that this would be the time to apply this knowledge right now, right at this moment, where we see a judicial system that's completely captured, 100% captured, that we're living in a banana republic. The same thing that the mainstream warned us about Trump was going to do. It's happening now without him in office. And it's this kind of thing that we go to other countries and we stop them from doing this, where political, that's the marketing power will use the judicial system against their adversary and do something like this and completely turn it upside down. We can see it. It's as clear as day. The other thing I would say is, and that's a different dimension we don't live in, because a lot of people are celebrating on one side, and the other side, they're bowing their heads. They're saying this is awful.
Don mentioned really quickly that all the channels he turned on, no nuance, no context, no serious discussion, just there's
a question I would have liked to have heard somebody raise, particularly at BAI. So I went on the air and raised it myself. All right.
Great.
Okay, so you've got 30 or 40,000 people, 15, 20,000 children dead in Gaza. You illegal war against, even now, against orders of the International Court of Justice. You've got the 15,000 plus or minus people that were killed in East Ukraine by the junta that was put in place by Biden and Obama in 2014, and however many tens or hundreds of thousands of people that have died flowing from that poisoned fruit of a poisoned tree. You've had the destruction of Libya, the destruction of Syria, the destruction of half of the damn planet, with people going back to the still within the reach of the law. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump and this Jamoke that's in office now, not a single charge brought in a single courtroom. Trump gets 34 convictions for paperwork.
Exactly. This is exactly the point. We all lived through these other presidencies. We've all lived through these war crimes. We've lived through this. We've seen it. We used to be the people in the streets saying, "Bring Dick Cheney and Bush to bring them to justice. Let's have justice for all the illegal war crimes." And now our short-term memories have taken over. And I think, again, today could have been a day of, there it is. It's as clear as effing day now. Like, how could you not see it? But on the other side, I was looking just now, and I'm seeing there's a good chance that the appeal could start, and it won't there's not, even if the judge punishes him with, even if he adds on years or whatever, 100 years even, the appeal process will stall out beyond the election. Is that something, Don, do you see that? Is that something that could transpire here? And maybe today was literally a day that they just wanted to get on paper that we have a convicted felon ex-president. They just wanted that so bad that maybe they don't even care what happens tomorrow. They just wanted that to happen. Is there a chance that appeal process could take place here and last through November?
I mean, it doesn't have to be over. There's no clock running against the court. So this is a bench of judges in the second department. I forget, 9 judges or something. And I'm in the first department. I'm sorry. I'm in the second department. I've been before them, the second department. I went in once with a case of, I spent my career in the title insurance business. And I went in on a case of adverse possession, which is what people commonly think of as squatters' rights, where you live somewhere for a long enough time, pay the taxes, fence it in, cultivate it, etc., and it becomes yours. I had a case like that went before them that was, unfortunately for them, unfortunately for the person whose interest they were protecting, was a key parcel in a luxury condominium development on public land on the waterfront in Austin. I was fighting that project, and part of it was this guy who was getting dispossessed, and his claim was based on adverse possession. And he should have won at the trial court, and he never even got a court date. The judge threw the case out, and then at the appellate division, we argued the case. They didn't really have much of a defense, and they won 9-0. So the first department is New York City. I'm just the suburbs. They have that even more secure.
I think Matt has made a point there too as well. I think they just, when you see the radio, when you see the news channels, CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, specifically, the leftist news channels, MSNBC and CNN, they love to say, this many convictions, or this many counts of accusations and all whatnot. They point it out right there. I think they wanted to just be able to say a convicted felon running for president. They just wanted to get that out there. It makes me think about when Nancy Pelosi went on Bill Maher. She just wanted to say Trump was impeached. No matter what happens, he ain't going to be accountable. It's frivolous, but he was impeached. They get those talking points out there, and I think they wanted to get that talking point out there before the election. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, it totally reminds me of the impeachment process. And, when we were younger, and you remember the first time I think we lived through that, or I lived through the Bill Clinton one. And I remember thinking, because we learned about Richard Nixon, we learned that this is like the worst thing that could possibly happen is the impeachment, and that Nixon had avoided that. And then you realize that was the first time. And that was that 1998, the Lewinsky situation? I think it was the first time I realized, wait a minute, he got the impeachment. That's like really, really bad. And it turns out it wasn't. It was just theater. I don't even think we called it that at the time, but I think back and I go, man, that was like the first curtain that went back. It was like, oh, they just wanted it was just to show. It was just, we got him, but nothing was actually going to happen. And so fast forward, we've had these impeachments now. And like you said, like Nancy Pelosi celebrating that impeachment, where he picked up a phone to call Zelensky. Like it's insane. Like that's so important to them to get that on record. But when you look at it closely, it's not, all it's doing is showing that none of this is really real. So I think that maybe that might be what's happening here, is just so they could say it and shout it at the top of their lungs.
maybe the Republicans, Don, could come out with what the Democrats came out. MoveOn.org is still going, right? Remember, it was censor, but move on. Look at Bill Clinton, but move on. Enough is enough. Every president gets his you know what wet. Doesn't apply to Donald Trump though, but because he didn't, he didn't disclose that money where it went.
Some poor people somewhere are very lucky that, unlike Bill Clinton at that time, and unlike Netanyahu and others, Donald Trump isn't the president while this crap is going on. So he's not going to he can't try to distract attention from it by blowing up some city somewhere and declaring war on some people. To me, that somebody somewhere should be celebrating, but not us. What we've seen is, I would say, the completion of a process that began, if not in 1789 or whatever, certainly on November 22nd, 1963, where the state has been entirely subsumed to whatever power stands behind it. I don't think you can even laughingly say that we have the formal trappings of a state at this point.
Wow, that deep, huh? That deep. Well, maybe Mr. Weinglass is right. The curtain is completely pulled back right now. We are a complete banana Republican. We are a complete joke right now. I mean, this is dangerous.
The fact that people can't see this for what it is. It's a complete collapse of our judicial system that we were taught our whole lives. This thing's great. The three parts of government that keeps each other in check. None of that is real. None of it is real. And you don't have to, you could love Trump, you can hate him. It doesn't really matter. He's not even that's not even the point. The point is, today's a day, this moment right now is the moment we say there is no question that is total garbage. And if you don't agree with that, it's either because you're not that bright, you're easily manipulated, or you're just lying. That's it. That's it.
And just to, once again, if you're wondering if the media is objective and not in on it, just take a look, like what Don talked about here. Just look. You can see how they frame everything. Trump found guilty in New York, hush money trial. Got to get that hush money trial. You know what I'm saying? Trump has been convicted. Here's what happens next. Trump found guilty in historic hush money. Live updates. Trump guilty on all counts in hush money. Donald Trump is found guilty in hush money. I mean, they all use the same buzzwords. They're trying to put out there the same narrative. They all work together, guys. It's just one big oligarchic happy family. That's it. That's it.
I'm sorry. I saw you scrolling. Yeah. I saw you scrolling there, Pasta. I didn't see. Where's all the hush money stories about Biden and Burisma? Where's all the hush money? Where's all that? Did we miss that
that's
page?
His son.
Did we skip over that?
That's his son, not him. Matt, that's his son. Everybody knows that Hunter Biden is going to get a job working for Burisma. It's merited, even though he's never worked in oil ever before. Come on now. That's not Joe Biden. That's his son.
I got to tell you something. I'm looking at things while we're talking, and this is something that's really, really disappointing to me. This is on Democracy Now's website this morning before the conviction, but they're setting up for the conviction, basically. They had Ron Kuby there. I don't know if you guys know who Ron Kuby is or was.
No, who is he?
He was he was essentially mentored by Bill Kunstler, and he was partners with him for a long time. And what he says here sounds more like Jeanine Pirro when she was a district attorney than like Bill Kunstler. He sounds like not just like a prosecutor, but like a prosecutor who's not even bothering to try to tie facts and law together and present a case. He's here he goes. He's talking about Donald Trump caused the business records to be falsified. I think that's been proven, and done so for the purposes of committing another crime. And let's face it, most people, this is Jeanine Pirro here. And actually, I don't think she'd be this. Well, anyway, let's face it, most people, when they falsify business records, do it to either get something they're not allowed to get or to avoid something the law requires them to do. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, should I cook up some bacon and eggs or should I cook my business records?
Mm-hmm.
And to him, that's proof that Trump did it, whatever it is. They're kind of fuzzy on that. I mean, they talk about the fact that these records were supposedly hidden to conceal a violation of the FEC regulations, the campaign finance disclosure laws, which again was not prosecuted, and which again was, had the statute lapsed, but also the people responsible for prosecuting it said we don't really have a case anyway. That's why we didn't prosecute it. Like I said, I can't even express how disappointed I am seeing this kind of stuff.
It is what it is. I think that we have to have a Matt Weinglass point of view about it. It's just pulling the curtain back all the way. I really do like that analogy.